Hello and welcome to Faith Matters. This is the programme where we take a spiritual perspective on life across the Merseyside region. I'm here today in St James in the City Church, which is just off Parliament Street in Liverpool, with the vicar, Neil Short. And great to be with you today, Neil.
Good to see you again, Keith.
Now, I'm here in your church. It looks a bit like
looks like a building site.
It looks like a building site. Just tell us what's going on here. How long have you been here?
Well, the church closed in 1972 for all sorts of reasons, but the main one being that the council planned to extend the M62 right into the city centre, and this was going to be junction 1, so it was going to be in the middle of the roundabout. So obviously there was no chance of a church being here, so they closed the church. It was vandalised, there was a big fire in the tower, and the building went downhill really fast. And it wasn't until 2010 that we got the building back. So it came back from a trust, it came back into the Church of England, and the Bishop of Liverpool asked me and a small team whether we could think about reopening the church and starting a new congregation.
Okay, and the church's got quite a history linked to the slave trade.
Yeah.
Tell us about that and how you might be addressing that, because obviously that's an issue for the city.
Well, for the history of the church, we need to go back to the year 1775. So in those days, Liverpool was right down in the docks, in amongst the warehouses. So if you were, a person like you, rich, influential, Keith, you would have lived down in the city centre with your money in amongst the warehouse. And in 1775, the rich people woke up one day and thought, why don't we move to the country? So they came up to the top of the hill with a nice view looking out over the river. And they picked this corner because this used to be King John's hunting park. That's why it's Park Road and Lodge Lane. And they decided to build the church. So they built this church by 27 shares, and they started to build big houses around here. It was called the Lady Sefton, the Lady Hartington Estate. So it was for rich people. And in 1775, of course, Liverpool was heavily involved in the slave trade. So most of the people who put the money up for the slave trade, for the church, were involved in the slave trade.
Okay, you got monuments. You were showing us earlier monuments too. You can't really see them from this angle. But
yeah, they covered up so we don't damage them. But perhaps I could just point out three. This one downstairs over there, that's a guy called Jacob Emilius Irving. Now, he made his money in a plantation in Jamaica, and when he made his money, he then came back to England, and he was one of the 27 shareholders, and he used to sit downstairs every week, and people saw no problem worshipping God, singing a hymn, saying the prayers, but having people in absolute misery back in the West Indies. When he died, we know that he owned 61 slaves, from Harriet, who was 70, right down to young Grace, who was just 6 months old, born into slavery. This guy down here, Moses Benson, he was a slave trader, not a plantation, a slave trader. And when he died, he left millions of pounds in his will, by today's standards. And he made that in the slave trade. This guy up here, Captain Pemberton, he was a captain for this guy down here, and he was killed protecting one of the slave ships. So the guy down there puts a nice plaque up for him, but he can cope because he owns millions of pounds. He had plenty to go.
But we'll come back to talking about how your church is in this building. But your congregation here are a multiracial congregation you've established here over the last 5 years. Well, obviously you're addressing it in that kind of way, But what else are you planning to do to address the issue around the slave trade and the history of this building? It's a redemptive thing going on.
Well, when we first started, some people said to me, aren't you embarrassed by the links to the past? And wouldn't you like to get rid of these memorials? And I said, no. If anything, I'd like to make memorials bigger and put spotlights on them. Because these dreadful things happened, and the people of that generation turned a blind eye to it. In 200 years from now, Keith, I wonder what people will be looking back on us and saying, there was all that trafficking going on. Yep. There were all those refugees, and what did you do? You just stayed in church, you just sang your hymns and said your prayers, and you didn't do anything about it. So it seems to us that what we want to do is we want to take the past and we want to use it as a springboard for the future. We've a terrible past at this church, but we ought to be bringing hope for people's future.
Okay, so you're in. We're on top of it now. You're in a tent. We'll go down there later. But you're in this tent here.
Yep.
The tent of meeting, if you like.
Yeah.
What's the history behind this?
Well, as you can see, we've got our coats on.
Yeah, it's freezing.
It's freezing in here, and it's February. I can tell you, in December and January, it was even colder. And there's no water in this building. There's no toilet. There's nothing.
You're not selling it to me, Neil.
It's not really like church. It's more like camping.
Yeah.
So what we did is we decided that we'd put a small tent. We bought a small tent, 6 metres by 6 metre, and we got some oil-filled radiators and we put them in. And after about an hour, it just got up to sort of an acceptable level. And then as the church grew, we just made the tent bigger. And then we went wide, and then right under this balcony. And to be honest, the more people who come, the better it is, because the worship's better, but we're warmer.
Yeah.
We're warmer. The more bodies that come, we're warmer. And so the more excited we get in the worship, the warmer we are. So come along on a Sunday, 4 o'clock every Sunday.
Okay, then Neil, what are you doing with the building? You're obviously not leaving it like this, are you? You've got development plans, I know that. Tell us about your development plans for the building and the site around.
Yeah, usually what happens in a church is there are a few things that need to be done, and so the members of the congregation put their hands in their pockets and pay for it. When we started, there were just 2 of us, and so there was never a chance that we could do this up. So we were always told, you're going to have to get grants for this. So the first thing that needs to be done in any building like this is you've got to secure the roof. So we got a big grant from English Heritage, big thank you to them. We got 407,000, but we still had to raise nearly 200,000, quite a lot from the congregation. So we've replaced this roof, and we've replaced the roof up there, and we've just relined all the gutters and all that sort of stuff. When it's all done, you don't see a right lot for your money, but it's an enormous area, and they've done an amazing job, and we're now dry, and the building's safe.
Okay, and you got any what next? What's happening next?
Well, what's really nice about the building is that there's a few nice features downstairs, but inside the building there's virtually nothing, so it's really flexible. So when it's done, we'll have a really nice space which we can use for church worship, for performing arts, and for conferences. So we'll have a nice flat floor, we'll have underfloor heating, we'll have movable seats, and we'll have sliding partitions, so we're able to use different parts of the building at different parts of the week.
And will you be using it for the community? Because this is on the edge of Toxteth, and this is an area of deprivation, or at least part of it is. Will this be a community facility?
Absolutely.
Or is it already, perhaps?
Well, we can't at the moment because we've got no disabled access, we've no running water, so we're just not able to use it for other folks, and we're not allowed to have school trips, all those. So we just really use it for church events at the moment. But obviously, like any church, we want this to be open 24/7 and to be a blessing to the community.
Okay, tell us about your church community. You're a young congregation that come in here into the cold, and you're the oldest one.
I'm nearly the oldest one. I'm not so much a father figure to this congregation, more like a grandfather figure. So we've got quite a lot of students, overseas students, young professionals. And we've had quite a lot of our young professionals who've got married and had children. So most of our children, we've got about 20-25 children. Most of those are actually under 10, and we've seen most of them born and just grow with us, which is great. Young professionals, and then with a few old crinklies like myself.
Neil, tell us a bit about the roof. Is it safe? Does it keep out the rain?
Well, I used to be a civil engineer, so I'll just give you 30 seconds on this. But all roofs are basically triangles. They're like this, and they're held in tension. The problem with roofs is that at this end here, at the gutter end, often if you get a problem with the roof, water gets in and it releases the tension, and the roof sinks. Like if you came a couple of years ago, our roof was like a Chinese pagoda, like that. So basically, what they've done is they've put tie bars in the roof, these stainless steel bars, and they've held it in position. And then on the top, they put loads of packings. They put all slates down. So on the outside, it's immaculate. On the inside, actually, it's all over the place, but it's held secure. But the other thing I want to tell you about the roof is this. Loads of people say about roofs, if you look at a church roof, and this is the same for most old church roofs, if you look at them, they're a bit like an upturned boat. It's like the inside of a hull. Because a church is an ark, The ark was there to save the people of God. And one of the points of the church is just to say to anybody, just come in. Come in and be saved. Come in and be loved. Come and be secure. Just let us be a big family together. Surrounded with one another's love, surrounded with God's love. It's just a lovely image of the church. The roof's only here to hold the roof up, but the church is here to do a lot more than that.
Thanks, Neil. That's just fantastic. We're going to go downstairs now if we can safely, and we're going to gather in your tent, the tent of meeting, and we're going to talk about Easter to explore those themes further. Join us after the break for Faith Matters. Well, welcome back to Faith Matters, to the second part of today's programme. We're here at St James in the City Church, just off Parliament Street in Liverpool, with Neil Short, the vicar. As you can see, we've moved downstairs into the tent. Behind us we've got the stage. It all looks very different down here, Neil. And tell us about, what's the vision for the church, the longer term vision? You've obviously had a vision for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
You kind of maybe you got there, I don't know. Where are you going now?
Well, I think vision's loads of different things. First of all, obviously you've got to build a congregation, because when we started there was just my wife and I, and we were having a great time, but that's not a church. So we needed a few more folks, and week by week, month by month, we're growing. Secondly, we particularly targeting students and young professionals who have a phenomenal range of gifts. And so really early on we realised it wasn't a matter of how many people come to this church that's going to count, it's how many people go from this church. It's not how good a do we have in here that matters, it's really what we're able to give away. So we've spent a lot of time thinking, how can we best give money, people and resources away? And I'd say we've made a good start, but I think we've got a long way to go. There's a lot more giving we need to do. It's just a very needy world, and we have much, and I think God expects us to give much.
Well, that leads us on to, I'm going to talk to you now about Easter and Holy Week, and because that's all about giving, all about what God gave and what God gives. Holy Week, what does Holy Week mean to you?
Well, it's funny you should ask this, but I was preaching about the word holy on Sunday, and the word holy also means saint, and it means consecrated, and it means set apart. And I think for people of faith, Holy Week is a really good time to set apart some special time. So we're coming up to the two big festivals, which are Good Friday and Easter Day, when Jesus died on the cross and rose again. And I think for 7 days leading up to that, it's really good to try and create a bit of space where you can begin to think, why did Jesus need to die for me? And also just be amazed again that he rose from the dead, he's alive today, and he wants to help me with the issues and difficulties that I'm facing today. And it's just worth creating a bit of space to do that.
Okay, and what are you doing here, in this building and in your community over this coming week? What not just you, but what are your people, your congregation doing?
Yeah, well, lots of different things. So we try to join in with other churches when we can. Now, the Cathedral are doing great passion plays during Holy Week, and we're going to join in with those, aren't they? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday. You probably see them on a website. So we're going to go along to those.
You kind of take part in those, don't you? You kind of like.
Well, I
think I went to one year or so back. You kind of.
Yeah, you're in the audience, and they keep moving around different parts of the cathedral. So you sort of as if you're the crowd on during Holy Week. It was brilliant, and they're doing a different plays this year. So loads of us are going to go back. We've set aside Tuesday as a specific day of prayer and fasting. So we're going to start at 7 in the morning. And we're going to have different events throughout the day for people to pray together. And we're asking people if they might want to sign up to pray specifically for half an hour, maybe at home or in their work break. And then we're going to finish up at church here at about 8 o'clock to pray together. And then after that, those of us who've been fasting as well as praying, we're going to go down to KFC.
Right, okay.
So a day of prayer and fasting is great, but going down to KFC is equally great.
So you're going to break the fast down there.
We're going to,
There's not going to be a McDonald's option because they're next door, aren't they? Just the KFC.
It's just got to be KFC.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've done this a few times before, and it's great. So we're doing that. Then on Good Friday, we're going to go again to the cathedral. There's a great hour at the cross from 2 to 3 o'clock, and then we'll be inviting people back to our house for hot cross buns. Then on Easter Saturday, here in the tent, we're going to do an Easter egg hunt. So we've done this for the last few years, and we have 3,000 Easter eggs. So everybody gathers in here. We normally have over 100 children from the local community and parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles. And while we're in here, they go outside in the graveyard and they hide all these 3,000 Easter eggs. We have people dressed up.
3,000?
3,000. Yeah.
Right.
No, Keith, don't get too excited. We're not talking about Easter eggs this size.
Right,
They are these ones.
Oh,
but I'll tell
right.
you, it is still a lot. It's still a lot. The kids have got them stuffed inside their pockets and they're holding them like this, and it's just great. We have a really lovely time. So that's on Easter Saturday. It's 2 o'clock till 4 o'clock. Come along if you can. And on Easter Sunday, we've got a family service here in the tent at 10 a.m. We remember Jesus rising from the dead, being alive today. It's just a great celebration time.
But I mean, it sounds like you do a lot of eating in this church. I've just been, these various events. You do a lot of celebrating. It sounds like a lot of fun here, really, at St James.
Well, it's really interesting. If you look at Jesus, Jesus did a heck of a lot of eating. In fact, nearly every time that he seems to have people together, there's either a party going on or there's a meal or just lots of it. And I suppose some of the best times in life are when we're with friends and we're eating and sharing together. So for instance, tonight in the tent, we'll probably have about 40 people come along at 7 o'clock. We'll have a meal together, then we'll have a bit of worship, and then we're going to split into two groups. We're going to do an alpha group in here, and we're going to do a newcomers group in one of the small rooms at the back. Every Sunday after the service, we normally have pizzas. So as the church grows, we have to get more and more pizzas. So get the biggest pizzas you can possibly buy, those whackers, about 15 inch. And I think on Sunday we're up to 12 of those. It costs us an absolute fortune in pizzas. But eating together, being together, with the family of God. That's what families do, they eat together.
Well, I can see why you're so attractive to students, because it's kind of, pizzas and KFC, Easter eggs. Oh, you're just keeping them going, keeping them alive.
Somebody said to me, why on earth do you have a service at 4 o'clock? Well, it's no point having a service at 10 o'clock because students won't be up. Most Sundays it's at 4 o'clock. So students are up, and we can't provide Sunday lunch. We couldn't do a roast dinner, but we can provide Sunday tea. So it's pizzas one week and bagels the next, and those sorts of things.
That's great. Okay, let's come back to Easter. What is the message of Easter? I'm not sure everybody really knows what the message of Easter is. Can you tell us what the message of Easter is? Not for people necessarily inside the church. But what about the people outside? What's the message for them?
Well, I think the clue's in the title. The clue's in the title. It's Good Friday. And Jesus hanging on the cross, he's dying one of the most dreadful deaths that's ever been invented. So it certainly wasn't good for him, but it was remarkably good for us. Because as Jesus hangs on the cross, he's dealing with all the mistakes and the mess in our lives. And I don't know about you, Keith, but I make loads of mistakes. Yeah. I let people down, I let myself down, I let God down. Good Friday says, I can forgive that. And God's very good at giving you a new start. He's good at wiping the slate clean. He's good at just dusting you down and saying, have another go. It's a good day for us. And Easter Day is the day when Jesus defeated death. I've done about 600 funerals in my time as a vicar. And they're not great dues. But Jesus defeated death.
Yeah. So
death is not the end.
Actually, I mean, some of the Christian funerals I've been to have been quite joyous. Because people have the confidence.
If
and
you know where you're going, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, and you sound very hopeful, Neil, about the church and about its future. And we're living in a time where people perhaps are, within the church are a bit despondent. You sound very hopeful. You tell us about your hope for the future for the church. More of this kind of thing. Experimental, fresh expressions, kind of thing?
I think the church is remarkable. You know, I think there's a bloke in America who says that the local church is the hope for the world, and I've so much to thank God for the church. I just think of people over the years, since I've been a nipper, who've looked after me and stuck me back together and fed me and taken me on holidays and trained me and looked after me. And here I am now, I'm 58, and I'm able to invest in young children and students and young professionals and to help them. That's what the church is all about. It's just helping people. It's introducing God to them, and then see God develop in their lives, to discover their gifts and abilities, and then to give it away to a needy world. I'm a member of a golf club. It's a great golf club. I love it, but I'll tell you what, it's not like a church.
No.
It's not like a church. People don't go and, you know, if the washing machine breaks down, they don't go around and sort the washing out machine. You know, if they're struggling with the kids, they don't say, I'll tell you what, I'll look after the kids this afternoon for you. If there's somebody who loses a job, it's not that everybody sort of has a whip round and sort of says, well, we'll just give a couple of quid to help out. It's not if they can't afford to go on the holiday. A golf club is just a golf club. You know, a netball club's a netball club, but a church, it's just remarkable.
Well, on that note, Neil, I think we're going to end because we come to the end of our time. I was wondering what those slave traders might be thinking what's going on in here. But it's great to hear the story of St James, and just encourage all our viewers to come along and have a look. And you know, let's expand this tent. Thank you, and thank you to our viewers, and see you next time on Faith Matters.